And I think, give me a second. I'm just trying to think if there's any. I'm pretty well, actually, I'm a little bit short in time, but I'm pretty well said the things I wanted to say. It's just if Venus gets hits, you're seeing one aspect and that's going to be there. When you start seeing two or three aspects, they pile up. And as they pile up, they create various types of stress coming in and testing that Venus or challenging that Venus and challenging the choices that you make. And knowing these things, just as I'm talking about this, when you look at your chart, you'll instantly get a sense of, oh God, that. You'll see it. But then you have to work on understanding it for years and working around it and developing it. Again, don't over magnify the stress. You work with it. You got it? Okay, so you can't ignore that you got that stress, but you still work on making your Venus more beautiful, bringing up the quality of the sign on your Venus, taking care of things in the affairs, the house. You just have to work on being somewhat discriminative and real rather than imaginary and fanciful. But someone may have a totally confusing emotional life, but they could be a film director. They could be doing things really creative that transcends all of those things. So these outer planets, while they're curses in a practical way, like as in peer pressure, going up through school and getting in life, finding way fitting, they cause their special problems. On a spiritual level, each one of them is something that's waking you up to something deeper than just what appears to be outside. So they work like angels to remind you there's God or there's a spiritual thing behind everything. So Venus is, the yoga of Venus is to be content with what you have. Not I have to get this, I have to get away from this, how do you get content? Thanks God, I'm grateful for today. Give us this day our daily bread. That thanks, that simple things, getting with Neptune to Venus, it's simple things. With Pluto to Venus, it's what's necessary. It's just necessity rules. But Neptune, there's many temptations. I mean, if 3 people love you, how can you hurt anybody? You have enough of you to spread around. How can that hurt? Whew. I mean, what's the biggest disease in life? Shoot me, break my arm, smash my head, cut off my leg. Just don't break my heart. So we're born, we take a run at life, and we try to we take our first run where God gave us this life and this chart and these potentials. Let's go out and see what we can do with it. So we run out, we get out of the house, we get out of the school, we go out into the road, we set it in motion that goes as far as it can, and somewhere along there, it crashes. It gets as far as it can go. We crash. And that wasn't real. And it's unfathomable that that could be so. But someone dies, we get hurt or heartbreak, something happens, and then we have to rebuild our life again with that chart. And as we rebuild it, we can rebuild it. These very things are things that take us into God, spirit, inner things, inner self-worth, where these qualities of these planets, they wake you up because the disenchantment, the confusions, the stress factors, other problems that you see too clearly, and the peace behind it, and the contentment and just love for no reason, being happy, being content for no reason, being grateful to God. Wow, these are all beautiful things. They come transcendently. So after our first wave of pushing out into life to see what we can get, then we realize this is what we got. There's got to be something else. Why would this happen? Then we start turning our mind, our emotions, and our lifestyle inward. And sooner or later, we're going to die and go inwards anyways. But as you do this as you're older, it starts to make sense of things. But often we're caught fighting for what we want for our kids, for this and justifying this and that. And really, we have to find our own solutions. And that takes us to the edge of the spiritual searching. And that's the yoga of Venus is the Bhakti yoga of love and devotion. You give away the things you have to God. You don't spend things, who cares? And you tend to love, be devoted to God and and you live a devoted, dedicated life. And everyone else thinks you've gone crazy. Doesn't matter if God's on your side or you're inside. So this comes back to my favorite puzzle or joke. Which side of the chicken has the most feathers? The outside, of course. Oh, everything outside life is just fluff and feathers. The real content is inside. What are you happy with? How can you be content with inner peace when there's so many things to desire out there? So the lust, the desires interfere with our natural contentment. So the two main spiritual disciplines in life are chanting to control the mind, or trying to stop thinking, breathing to control the mind, and chanting to control the emotions, so that you start being detached to outer things and you start appreciating inner peace and start loving the chanting and the beauty, and you start loving God or loving your aspect of God or whatever it may be. And as soon as that, when you first chant, it's an impersonal thing, but as you get chanting, it becomes a more personal thing. If you feel a little disconnected, you start to be really sad because you're disconnected. So these are ways of going in. But trying to go in from Venus, it really is pulling teeth, because Venus is the seductress that wants to go out, or seductor that wants to go out. It has to feel really sad or lost before it's going to try and rely on something else. I think that, you mean I have to hold here? You mean I'm supposed to be the cell of the saint or whatever? But when you get there, there's a grace, there's a rapture, there's a presence, there's a peace. And when someone's at peak extremes, it's important to sometimes be able to, it's going to say you need to go to God, or that to most people. But when someone's at their heartache, or someone's at this bottom point, this is probably the only way it could make sense. So when you're looking at a natal chart, see, I'm used to working with trends. I see when something hits someone's chart and I say, oh, they're working with this now, and then I walk into it. Then I work with the natal chart to affirm why they're going through this and where this is going. And then add the progressions in to see where their heart is in dealing with this. So it takes time to develop all these layers. Right now we're looking at your natal chart. What's your predisposition, your a priori. You're carrying this initial baggage with you from birth. So you're going to have to play out and act out these aspects in some way. That stress will come in. In some way that stress will be there every day. That's normal for you. It's not the same for other people. But even if you're sad, even if you don't have money, even if you're poor, you lost your partner or whatever, or the kid's grown up and is in trouble, those things make you question your self-worth, but you need an inner being, an inner presence to be able to hold your self-worth, especially while those things are going on. And we're not always taught that from the families we grow out of. So you'll be in a place where you're running into these things. And it's just your puzzle that you're haunting with life. Life's an amazing thing. All these aspects, all these things, they're just aspects. People live anyways. And they're going through this anyways. But they don't see the evolution in it always. They don't see that it's connecting to bring us to more refined places of being. So Venus is your emotional refinement, from opposed and magneticism towards emotional refinement, as opposed to gross desires and lust or envy. Interesting puzzle. We're always learning from it. And as soon as I finish the class on it, I think I haven't done enough justice to it because I've only pointed at it. But it's the best I could do for now. So thank you. We're going to end it here. Next week, we're dealing with the sun, with your heart, with your ego, with your confidence. And we'll watch the stress patterns to that. Okay? Thanks. Night. This up now.